Coming in from the Cold by Timaeus, read by Deathlights. The train whistle sounded, piercing the afternoon air and sharp against the low rumble of the engine chugging away. The gentle rhythmic rising and falling of the train slowed, steering the lone mare in one of the train's many compartments. She blinked the sleep from her eyes and yawned, stretching as the thoughts coagulating from the treacle of her mind. Metal screeched against metal, and the train came to a stop with a final, stomach-churning lurch. For a moment, everything was still. Then, as though the world jumped back into motion, the deep, bass-of voice of the conductor came from further down the car. "Ponyville, all departing for Ponyville. Collect your bags. Next stop, Dodge Junction." Ponyville. The mare's ears perked. Slowly, she sat up, sinking her haunches further into the thin cushion padding her seat, and groped at her side, sighing when her hoof found the coarse fabric of her saddlebags. A glimmer of fear shone in her reflection's eyes, nearly as bright and blue as the winter sky. She watched as a wrinkle furrowed her brow, and her ears fell back against her two-toned pink and blue mane. It may have been the translucency of the reflection or the backdrop of white behind it, but her cream-colored coat seemed to be a shade or two paler than usual. Though, who could blame her really? Outside of that window and beyond her reflection lay the little town of Ponyville. As soon as she stepped outside the compartment door, she began the first day of the rest of her life. She would begin the life of Bonbon, the candy maker, and an inevitably permanent citizen of Ponyville. Ponyvillian, is that what they call themselves? Either way, she'd be one of them. The conductor's voice came again, this time much closer, and shook her from her thoughts. "This stop Ponyville, all departing, please collect your bags, all remaining, next stop Dodge Junction." A sigh fell from the mare Bonbon's lips, and she pushed herself off her bench, and shivered at the draft of cold air that wafted from the outside. The muffled thud of hooves on hardwood floor sounded from outside her compartment door, and the low murmur of conversation followed. Not many were departing here, which was exactly what she had hoped. Most ponies only knew Ponyville as a town on the edge of the Everfree Forest. It promised a quiet life where she could blend into the background. It was exactly what she needed. Sliding her saddlebags over her shoulders, Bonbon wiggled them into place before balancing on her hind legs to grab a suitcase overhead. A flicker of movement caught her eye as she lowered herself back to the floor, ears twitching as she followed it outside the window and to the snowscape beyond. Snow twirled and danced across the train station platform. A few ponies inside walked with their heads bowed, straining against the wind that mixed and mingled with fresh snow from the sky and the fine powder collected on the roofs and trees. Flurries rose and fell, swirling in bouts of white that had already started to fog and frost the edge of the window. Swallowing, she nosed into her saddlebags and pulled out her scarf between her teeth. It was a simple thing, a worn and faded red, but it would keep some of the bite of the cold at bay. She wrapped it around her neck, and with one final breath, she balanced her suitcase on her back and opened her compartment door, walking outside. The conductor greeted her with a smile as she approached. It had a way of wrinkling the coal-black mustache that stretched all the way to the base of his ears. "Welcome to Ponyville, miss," he said with the tip of his hat. "I hope you got more than that scarf on ya, it's a mite nippy out there." Bonbon offered a flickering smile in reply. "Thank you, but I'm sure I'll be fine. I'll just get a hotel right away." The conductor shrugged as he turned and walked back to the train car. "If you're sure, miss, have a good day." With a nod and a murmur of thanks, Bonbon walked off the train and onto the platform. The door closed behind her and another whistle pierced the winter air over the gusting wind that howled in her ears. She certainly felt it through the floorboards, though. As the train pulled away from the station, slowly gaining speed until it left Ponyville and its newest resident far behind. Snow bit through her coat and sent a chill up her spine by the time she left the station, and the wind whipped the ends of her scarf over her shoulder. Rose-shingled roofs lined the streets, and, with no plan and no idea where to go, and with no place where she can seek refuge, Bonbon started to walk. Hopefully where she ended up would be warm. Snow fell around Bonbon, swirling and whipping into flurried frenzies by the winter wind that howled over the rooftops, and between the houses and shops that lined the streets. She bowed her head, gritting her teeth, as each gust bit through her scarf and caught the snowflakes in her eyelashes, hazing her vision as she continued her march through town. The hour that passed since she left the train station passed by in a grilling slog. The cobblestone streets were cold to the touch, numbing her hooves as she trudged through the snow, and weaved a winding trail in her wake. The tips of her ears burned from the frigid air, and she had long since lost feeling in the tip of her snout. Her suitcase dug into her shoulders more and more with each step, and the feeling of cold air against her teeth turned her grimace into a teeth-chattering shiver. Another gust of wind whipped her scarf over her face, squeezing sunlight between a whine and a sigh from her chest. She was alone in the street as she paused in her stride to tuck the tail end of her scarf around her neck. Steadying herself, another shiver shook her frame as she rubbed her forelips together, a futile effort to return some semblance of warmth. The wind blew again, and Bonbon braced herself against it and the flurry that it carried. As it died down, she caught the faint clickety-clack of wood rattling on the edge of her hearing. Ears perked and eyes opened wide as she swelled her head left and right until her gaze landed on a sight more welcoming than the merriest of hearth-warming trees. A cafe on a street corner. Sanctuary at last. Snow covered the cafe's outdoor patio, swept by the wind against upturned chairs. Its sign swung and rattled with each gust of wind, and the window shone with an inviting orange glow, one that promised shelter, comfort, and, more importantly, warmth of light that her chilled coat and numbing hooves couldn't ignore. Before she knew what she was doing, she was trotting across the street towards her haven. Murky silhouettes bobbed in the windows, huddled together as they talked, drank, ate, and laughed. The soft, orange light danced and flickered, prompting a crackling fire that kept the winter's chill at bay. The sight tugged at Bonbon's chest, hollowing her core with a sense of yearning that pulled her the last few stumbling steps to the door. The door handle was freezing to the touch, but she wrapped her hoof around it and pulled it open. A wave of heat rolled from the inside and washed over her, threatening to buckle her knees then and there as she crossed the threshold. A bell hanging over the door chimed, announcing her entrance before she kicked the door closed. Not that any of the other patrons noticed. The din of a dozen conversations filled the cafe, of ponies of all shapes and sizes filled the tables and booths scattered across the floor, and crowded around the few sofas and plush armchairs nestled by the fire.
Oh, Celestia, there's a fire!
Slowly, the burning bitter cold faded from her ears as they perked up, eager to catch every snap, crackle, and pop from the logs in the hearth. The scent of wood smoke trickled her nose, easing the beginnings of a smile over her muzzle. As she closed her eyes and simply stood on the welcome mats, soaking up as much of everything as she could. She could still hear the sharp whistle of the wind through the crack in the door, prompting her tail to curl around her hind leg and a few inches deeper into the cafe.
Hello.
A voice chirped, blinking open her eyes. Bonbon glanced to her side and found one of the cafe's waitresses greeting her with a confused but genuine smile.
Welcome to Kappa Coco. Sorry about the mess. We're a little busy right now.
A tray stacked with empty plates, cups, and cutlery hovered over the waitress's head, wreathed in a golden aura that almost matched her brilliant golden eyes. The apron she wore was only a few shades darker than her minty green coat. Amidst the visor that kept the bangs of her two-toned green and white mane out of her face. There, Bonbon's teeth chattered. She tried to steady her voice.
It's not a problem. With the storm, I'm not surprised.
Crazy, right? Flashing a smile, the waitress's horn sparked, and the empty plates from the nearest table floated over and settled atop the tray. We were supposed to get some mild flares according to today's paper. The mayor rolled her eyes, but her smile remained, as light and jovial as her tone. There's some accident at the weather factory, and now it's like we're living in Yakistan. Bonbon put on a smile as feeling returned to her nose. She shifted her weight, rubbing her hooves together to spread the sensation further across her body, and nodded. Yeah, it's brutal out there.
It looks like it. So,
the waitress said, producing a pad of paper and pen from her apron.
what can I get started for you?
Actually, I'd really like to get a table of one, please. Licking her lips, Bonbon glanced around the cafe room. Heads poked out of every booth and bodies filled every seat. At the waning smile on the waitress's face, she felt her ears pinned back. Or an empty spot in a booth. If any pony's willing, I'll take a footstool. Anything. The waitress winced. Her gaze dropped to the side as she tucked her pen and pad back into her apron. Sorry, but we're all booked up right now. Believe me, if there was any place I could seat you, I would. It's nasty out there. She looked back up, meeting Bonbon with a weak and apologetic smile. I can get you something hot to warm you up, though. The thought of being plunged back into the winter storm was enough for a shiver to shake Bonbon from head to hoof. Her ears folded back, disappearing into her mane as her haunches sank to the floor. Please, I'll take anything. I'll sit in the corner on the floor if I have to. Just until the storm passes. The mayor's smile slipped away as she shook her head. I'm sorry, but there's not an open seat in the house. Bonbon held the waitress's gaze, blue eyes meeting gold, until the latter looked away. A sympathetic pain fell over the unicorn's face and the drooping of her ears, and the grimace that wrinkled her brow. She was sorry, Bonbon knew, but sorry wouldn't keep her warm. Another shiver shook her frame. Bonbon released a breath in a heavy sigh and pushed herself to her hooves. The dusting of snow that clung to the straps of her saddlebags had melted, wetting her fur and adding to the impending chill that swept through her core as soon as she stepped outside. She spared a plastic smile and a nod for the waitress. I understand. I'm sorry for the trouble. And, with her head hung, Bonbon turned, dragging her hooves with each step to the door. If the fates were kind, then a hotel would just be a street away. Just as her hooves tried to push the door open, a golden aura wrapped around the door handle and pushed it back closed. Before it could so much, she jingled the bell. Eyebrow arched, she looked over her shoulder and found the waitress's horn aglow, and her bottom lip firmly bit between her teeth. Yes? Glancing from left to right, the waitress set down the tray and scuttered towards her. If the other patrons noticed, they didn't show as they talked, ate, and drank, while the other waiters and waitresses took orders and cleaned away plates. Hold on a second. Look, I'm not supposed to be doing this. She spoke in a rushed whisper. Her gaze shifted from Bonbon's mane to her tail curled around her hind leg, to her scarf and the suitcase balanced on her back. Bonbon's other brow arched, in time with her ears perking up from her scalp. A flicker of hope danced from her chest as the waitress chewed on her lip and glanced from side to side. Doing what? It's just, you look like you're freezing. The mayor said. Their eyes met, and she took a step forward. One of her ears folded down, while the other stood rigid, complementing the indecision written across her muzzle. Then, reaching down, she rested her hoof on Bonbon's shoulder. She yelped, withdrawing her hoof as if bitten by the cold. Scratch that! You are freezing! How long have you been out there? Rubbing the spot where the waitress touched, Bonbon ducked her head as the slightest tinge of embarrassment warmed her cheeks. I don't know, an hour maybe? I kinda got lost in the storm. An hour? The mare barked, clutching her hoof to her chest. Fire sparked and danced behind her eyes, washing away the hesitancy that kept her lip bitten between her teeth. She snorted, planting her hooves on the floor. Okay, no. No? No what? Just wait here for a second, okay? The waitress's tray lifted into the air, once again surrounded by a magical golden glow. When she met Bonbon's gaze, it was with a grin more lopsided and entirely more fitting. I'll be right back. Uh-huh. Bonbon said, blinking as the waitress waded into the depths of the cafe. Okay. When she disappeared behind the kitchen doors, Bonbon exhaled, inching away from the door and towards the fire. Even if it was only for a moment, the cold that seeped under her coat, it numbed her hooves bad as she clung to every second she could. She let her eyes slide closed and let a low hum build up in the back of her throat with every bit that her coat thawed. The cafe continued on around her, drowning in a combination of warmth, a sea of conversation, the scratching of chairs on the floor, and the occasional buzzing of a bean grinder. Slowly, the more she became adrift in the ambience cushioning her, the more her tail unwound from her leg. Another sigh, this one more relieved, blew past her lips as she reveled in the moment. It only lasted for a moment before a cadence of hooves prancing towards her made her ears flick. Tightening the scarf around her neck, Bonbon opened her eyes in time to see the waitress cantering back across the floor. A smile, bright and keen, stretched over her muzzle as she weaved her way through the crowd on the tips of her hooves.
Table for one, right?
Yeah? Bonbon said, angling her head to the side. Not a single pony had left in the short minute she waited. But I thought you said...
Then come this way, we've got a table ready for you.
Wiggling her ears, the waitress skipped over to Bonbon's side and tugged the soon-to-be Ponyvillian by the foreleg, leading her through the cafe. Too cold and too hopeful to argue, Bonbon let herself be led, though she squinted at the back of the waitress all the while. I'm sorry, did the table open up? The waitress giggled, a musical little laugh.
Not really.
Bonbon's brow furrowed as she edged around a table filled with enough fresh and warm pastries to make her stomach growl. Then, where are you taking me?
I talked to my manager,
the waitress said, grinning that bright and eager smile over her shoulder.
Turns out she shares my opinion not kicking out cold and lost looking mares in the middle of a snowstorm. So, you get to sit at the special table.
A wrinkle formed on Bonbon's brow and an eyebrow arched higher on her forehead.
The special table? Well, the special you think, eating where all the staff take their breaks is special.
The waitress wiggled her ears, drawing a step closer as they neared the kitchen door.
Just follow me and don't make a scene. We don't usually let customers back here.
The door was enveloped in a golden hue that matched the aura humming around the waitress's horn. With one last reassuring smile, she pushed the door open with her magic and led Bonbon past her rose storage cupboards. The din of conversation faded to a muffled murmur as the door swung shut behind them, but was immediately replaced by a new wave of smells, sounds, and warmth. Plates clicked and clattered between gushing butts of water in the kitchen. The few ponies, the bakers, chef, and dishwashers talked and read orders, sparing little more than a nod or a smile as the two passed by. An oven timer dinged, and as the door opened, Bonbon couldn't help but rubberneck at the smell of the fresh muffins that wafted out. Every bit as enticing and delicious as their empty stomach wanted them to be. The waitress giggled, and Bonbon looked back to find her watching with an understanding, if impish, smile.
Hungry? We can fix that for you too.
The two stopped at a booth, tucked away into the corner of the kitchen. Letting go of Bonbon's foreleg, the waitress stepped aside and gestured to the empty bench.
Here you go, table for one. There's not much to review or company back here, but it's plenty warm. The ovens are just right around the corner, so you should get nice and toasty real quick.
A small shiver made the hairs on Bonbon's coat stand on end. She took a step towards the booth and rested her hoof on the table. Are you sure? I'd hate to get you in any trouble. The waitress scoffed, waving off Bonbon's concerns with a hoof while she lifted the Earth Pony's suitcase off her back with her magic.
I've already cleared with my manager, so there's nothing to worry about, except for getting you warm.
Well, if you're sure. Bonbon watched her suitcase float over the table and come to a rest on the bench before she slid next to it. The wood creaked and groaned as she set her weight on it, but the cushion underneath was warm. She sighed and let herself sink into its embrace. Thank you.
Don't worry about it. Now, the next step on getting you warm is getting you something hot to drink. What's your drink of choice? Coffee, tea, cocoa?
Before Bonbon met her gaze, she felt the waitress eyeing her up and down.
You look like a cocoa kind of mare.
A meek smile wobbled over Bonbon's lips as she bobbed her head in a nod. Guilty. The witness grinned.
Knew it. We just got a pot of that brewed up. I'll bring you a cup right away.
Thank you. Bonbon said, but the words barely left her lips as the waitress slipped around the corner into the kitchen. Barely a minute passed before the waitress returned with a saucer held aloft in her magic. "One hot cocoa with extra marshmallows for the cold and frozen mare," she said, placing the saucer down in front of Bonbon. Steam wafted up from the cup, tickling her nose with the sugary sweetness and decadence of melted chocolates. A small mound of mini marshmallows piled up in its center, melting into a delicious foam that lapped to the cup's rim. Bonbon let the steam and smells wash over her muzzle, building up a constant hum in her throat. She murmured another "thank you," and wrapped her hooves around the cup. Warmth radiated from it, tingling up and down her forelegs to her shoulders, and drawing another relief sigh from her lips. "So," the waitress asked, lingering at the edge of the booth, "are you new in town?" Bonbon offered a flicker of a smile as she pulled the cup and saucer closer. "Did the suitcase and saddlebags give it away?" The waitress giggled. Again, there was the musical, lilting tone to it, one that rouses a flicker to Bonbon's ear. "Yeah, and I've never seen you before. I may have only gotten back to Ponyville a few months ago, but I still know every pony that lives here." Bonbon nodded as the warmth started to spread across her chest. "Why do you ask?" Another giggle followed an impish smile that floated over the waitress's muzzle. "Simple, because the first drink's free for newcomers." Blinking, Bonbon looked from the waitress to the cocoa in her hooves. "Really?" "Maybe, possibly." The mare's grin grew, making her eyes dance and sparkle with delighted golden light. "Okay, it's not, but it's on the house anyways, and don't argue," she said, tapping her hoof on the table right as Bonbon scrunched up her muzzle to protest. For a moment, the waitress's smile softened, bringing the light of her eyes to a warmth akin to the cocoa between Bonbon's hooves. "You look like you needed it, and I may be a lowly waitress, but I can get you that much." There was something about that look that brokered no argument. Still, Bonbon arched a brow. It was a small gesture, yet somehow enough to make the waitress crack. "Or it may be coming out my paycheck, but even if it did, whatever." She shrugged, sidestepping to the other side of the booth. "It's just one cocoa." "That doesn't seem right." Shaking her head, Bonbon reached for his saddlebag for a bit bag. "I may be cold and lost, but I have bits. Let me pay." A golden glow surrounded the clasps of Bonbon's saddlebags and fastened it tight. "Nope," the waitress chirped with a grin that crossed from impish to devilish. "That's not how things work in Ponyville, but if you really want to pay me, then how about you pay me with your name? Otherwise, I'm just gonna keep calling you Ice Mare all day." Despite herself, Bonbon couldn't help but smile as she drew the cocoa up to her lips. "That's sweet, this cocoa. And what you're doing, it's very sweet of you." Tail curling around her hind leg, she licks her lips and flicks her gaze to meet the waitress's. "And I'm Bonbon." "Bonbon, huh?" the waitress said, tilting her head from one side to the other, almost as if she was tasting the name. Then, nodding her head, she smiled that pretty little smile that made her golden eyes dance and sparkle. "Welcome to Ponyville, Bonbon. I have to go, doing my job and stuff. But I get on break in like half an hour. Maybe we can talk if you're still around. Oh, right. Anything to eat? Some of the best guns and muffins in town right here. And they're fresh out of the oven too." Clasping the cup of cocoa just shy from her muzzle, Bonbon bent down on the corner of her lip. Her eyes wandered from her suitcase and saddlebag to the empty bench across from her. Every bit as empty as her compartment on the train. "Maybe," she said, letting her gaze wander over the table and back to the waitress's smiling muzzle. Between the warmth of the cocoa, the kitchen, and the mare's smile, she could only smile in return. "Yes, I think I like that. I'd rather that than being alone. And I'd love both a muffin and a scone, please." The waitress's grin widened to stretch from ear to ear. "Great, I just need to go check in on a few tables and refill a few drinks, and then I'll bring those right to you." Her tail bobbed with a noticeable skip in her step as she turned and trotted back into the kitchen, pausing only once she reached the door. "Oh, right." She looked back over her shoulder, smiling that impish smile all over again.
My name's Lyra, by the way. Be back in a sec.
Bonbon watched the waitress, Lyra, leave. The door swung on its hinges, granting little glimpses into the cafe proper and the frosted windows beyond. Cupping the cocoa between her hooves, she lifted it up to her lips and took long, slow sips. Warmth poured down her throat as she swallowed, and it poured down to the tips of her hind hooves. She licked her lips, wiping away the lingering marshmallow foam, and savoring the taste of the chocolate on her tongue. Yet another sigh floated past her lips, bringing with it a smile that likewise floated all over her muzzle. She took another, longer sip. Lyra. Maybe Ponyville wouldn't be such a bad place to start over in after all.